What's up, guys? Army-Firedawg back, and been a couple months in the making, kind of being stuck behind, but if you remember a couple months ago from my unboxing video, the first ever thing I ever traded was my Biodynamic T70Ps, and I traded them for the Sennheiser HD650s. The reason for such is, if y'all don't know, on the website headfi.org, which is the #1 overall rated headphone, is the Sennheiser HD650s. So when someone contacted me saying, hey, I see you're wanting to trade, would you be interested in these? I said, yeah, sure. I'd love to try them out and see if they're really worth the hype. But I've given them a pretty decent listening time. Despite having all my other products I've reviewed, let's get into the review time of the Sennheiser HD650s. And of course, I like to start with the construction. So how are these built? For $500, so of course I like to start with the construction. And, you know, these go for $500. And to be $500, I think they can honestly use a little bit of work in the construction department. Now, I will rate it as acceptable. It is not completely horribly cheap, but it sure as heck isn't like, holy crap, this is really well made. It's not. It is very cheaply plastic. Actually, not cheap plastic. I'd give it about mid-grade plastic. There's no swivel to it. And there's also no give or no retention to it at all. It's a very stiff headphone. It's just you have a little bit of swivel here. And then there's a little bit of movement here. That's all you're going to get. So if you were to accidentally pinch it on something, or heaven forbid sit on it, I am a firm believer that these will break. So you do have to be careful with these headphones. As far as weight goes, they're actually very light. Like, these don't weigh much at all. On your head, they're pretty big, but they're pretty flush. So weight-wise, I think these could be used for traveling, though I personally would not recommend it. Even if you do have a competent portable amp, people around you will think you're a D-bag, because this does leak everything. This is a full open-back headphone. Everything you're listening to, everyone around you will hear. Please don't be that guy or girl. So moving on to the comfort. And very similar to the construction, I'd rate it as acceptable, but does need room for improvement. So it uses the little cloth padding, which is, if y'all don't know, my favorite kind of padding, but it's very stiff. I mean, it's very, very stiff, as is the headband on here. But there's also not a whole lot of it. I'm trying to get a good focus. There's not a whole lot. You just get that little bit, and that's all. And the way I'll compare it is to, like I use my other headphones. I use a nice warm marshmallow. You know how it's nice and squishy and definitely conforms to like the stick or your fingers. Kind of very easily mushes but still maintains a soft firmness. This is kind of like putting your hand in the sand. It still, you know, it pushes down, it conforms, it's still soft and comfortable, yes. But it's definitely more stiffer, more grainier kind of feel to it. That's about the best way I can describe how these feel. Now, I can and have worn these for hours on end, whether it be gaming on the PS4, which, on a side note, before I go any further, these are probably my top tier #1 headphones I've ever used for gaming. The surround cues is unreal, but I'll get into that more in the sound section. But so definitely, if you can, try these for your game. But on the note of the sound, why don't we move into that? We've already talked about the construction, pretty straightforward. Comfort, again, short but pretty straightforward. So, do these headphones that are $500, probably the most well-known headphone ever made, or probably other than the Apple EarPod, is it worth $500? And is it worth the #1 spot on the most prestigious personal audio website and most well-known personal audio website on the web? Well, let's talk about it. So as I just mentioned when I talked about gaming, the soundstage is by far the largest I have ever heard. You hear things so far out, like it really immerses you into the environment. If y'all don't know, I love the game Destiny, and you hear things way far away, very, very realistically. So I'm very impressed with that. Not only on the distance, but the layering is pinpoint. Like I can tell, okay, I have birds flying here, but I also hear wind rustling the trees here. I hear another player shooting something way over there. You hear that, and you know how far away this is apart. All of these things, the soundstage, the layering, ties in wonderful to your envelopment. Like, you really feel like you're a part of whatever song, game, movie you're listening to or experiencing. Now, the imaging, though, is top-notch. I don't think it's as good as it could be on here. I have definitely heard better imaging headphones, even in the same price point. But compared to everything else, you are truly, truly immersed in the HD650s. They do a spectacular job of forcing you to experience what you're listening to. But let's get into more of the individual aspects and see just how the individual components can tie into that. So first you gotta start with the treble. The treble is so clean. It's very, very pristine. It's clear. It's crystal clear. It is just really well done. The song Diva Dance, I use this song for quite a bit of examples testing treble because she reaches really high notes, and a lot of times the headphones will distort or just roll right off and you can't reach her. The 650s reproduced her perfectly. She reached up there without any fatigue. She sounded like she was right there in front of me. Wonderfully well done. I have no complaints with the treble, and that stayed consistent when I was listening to Maxine Sirens, Where Is My Mind, I believe this is the name of the song. Another potential treble tester song. But it's a beautiful melody. If I'm listening to a violin, it reproduces that energy spectacularly. Wonderfully, wonderfully well done. Great energy transfer. No complaints on the treble. The mids are also spot on. They are very, very neutral, but maybe they're neutral, but maybe slightly emphasized. So I don't guess they're not quite neutral, but they're not. They don't sound fake. They sound very realistic. They have a lot of body to them. Like, I can really tell finger on flesh, like the snapping of a finger. I can hear it, and it just feels realistic. When I'm listening to the song S.O.B. by Nathaniel Ratecliffe, every bit of that sounds very realistic. Or even the song Grandma's Hands. I can't remember his name, but even says the snapping of fingers. It just sounds very realistic. Like, you can really tell you're listening to a person, not a recording. Now, going to the bass. The bass on here is the only thing I think shows some emphasis. It's not heavy, but it's a good tint away from the warmth. It's a little bit darker than warm. It has a nice hit to it, but not enough to deter, folks like me away who's not a bass head. It's just enough to give you a nice punch, especially in the sub bass. Sometimes open back headphones, from my experience, don't have a good sub bass response to them. These have no issues with that. I have heard heavier, even in a planar magnetic I've heard heavier, but I'm very impressed with the sub bass response. It's clean and it's articulate. Before we wrap it up in conclusion, I was asked to compare the HD650s to the AudioQuest Nighthawks. Now, this is not a full comparison review. I will actually do that either in a completely separate video, or I'll tie it in there with the AudioQuest review. And that'll be posted probably Thursday or Friday. That's when I have to send them off. So probably Thursday. But on initial impression, the Nighthawks are more of the bass head's headphone. They have some punch to them. I mean, they got punch. But the imaging, I have never heard imaging as good as I had on the Nighthawks. In that price range, I've heard better, but in that sub $750 price range or $750 range and lower, the Nighthawks have the best imaging, bar none. It is stunning. But as far as realism and envelopment, still with the HD650s. Now, that's about all I can talk about now. It's not a full review. It's kind of like a quick comparison between the two, but just give you all a teaser for a video that come out very soon. But I digress. So in conclusion, guys, the Sennheiser HD650s are absolutely a headphone every audiophile, headphone enthusiast, audio enthusiast should have in their collection. They absolutely put up and keep up with headphones multiples more expensive. Like, I'd put these against actually quite a few thousand plus dollar headphones I've heard. But these do and reproduce sound so beautifully. They are well deserving of the number one spot. Now, and that's in the price per quality ratio. I'm a firm believer there is no such thing as best. That's to each individual's ear. But I will happily put my Army-Firedawg name's backing into anyone who's considering the HD650s. I would have put these tenfold, even over the more expensive HD700s. Bar none. These are absolutely a top-notch headphone that, despite having some downsides, the sound quality really shows what could happen when a company puts most of its funding into the sound versus other features that aren't necessarily as important. But that's it for the HD650s, guys. If you like the video, definitely smash that like button, guys. I greatly appreciate your support. If you have any questions on the 650s or the Nighthawks or whatever you have a question on or just want to talk about anything, I love replying to you guys. I've had quite really good conversations lately. Hit me up in the comments. I reply to everyone. I love talking to you guys. But, as always, my name is Army-Firedawg. It's been a pleasure, but most importantly, stay safe.